from the Democrat and Republican side, I don't know if I can ever trust Democrats on things like Bitcoin when I look at energy policy, because Bitcoin mining needs what? It needs good, fair, cheap electricity. It needs good energy. And I look at things like the Green New Deal and stuff that I just think disincentivize all of that. The flip side of that is I noticed that AI is the reason Democrats have kind of changed their tune on nuclear. But all that saying is, do you see energy policy and Bitcoin policy really kind of coexisting or coinciding and merging? Like, I know, leaving out the whole financial services piece, because I don't understand how, as this gets more competitive, the number one goal is we just need as much energy as possible. And I was reading a report, and you would know about this more than I do, but we are not on track to meet our energy demand, our energy needs, right? And if we started today, for example, to start building nuclear, right? And maybe it was specifically touching on nuclear, not energy demand, but nuclear specifically, like some of those facilities take forever to set up. So do you see kind of your organization getting ready to get more into the energy policy field, because that's kind of what Bitcoin miners themselves are morphing into? Or am I just kind of completely off?
No, you're absolutely on target. And actually, in fact, that's one of the main things that Satoshi Action started to pursue the moment that we launched, was developing cutting edge energy policy to help unlock the power of the technology. In fact, we at Satoshi Action has sort of been waiting for the Bitcoin miners to be interested in helping us to be able to pass those bills. And, well, I should say not pass those bills. There would be a much stronger focus on public utility commissions, which is a regulatory body. This is the interesting part about, sort of states versus federal. The states have the vast majority of control over their energy policy. The federal government certainly can come in and, especially when you're talking about cross-border, cross-state, interstate electrical infrastructure, like transmission, rules around that transmission. That's where the federal government comes in, especially when it comes to money. The amount of money the federal government can pour into the energy industry is vast. I mean, I think the Biden administration dumped $500 billion into energy policies that advanced clean energy, helped unlock data centers, and also nuclear as well. But with regards to public policy at the state level, we have the ability to craft ancillary service programs, demand response, grid balancing programs. We can help design rates. And all of these are things that are only happening at the state level. The federal government does not get involved in that type of policy. And so Satoshi Action is really well poised and positioned to put those types of programs together. And we sort of been waiting for the Bitcoin miners to tap us on the shoulder and say, we want to start doing these things. Fortunately, those conversations have finally begun, but we have a lot of work ahead of us to be able to truly unlock the potential of Bitcoin mining as a technology.
What does that look like? Oh, go ahead, Gary.
I was going to ask you a question, Dennis, but I don't know if you can answer it. And if you can't, just say, hey, can you ask me something different? But do you think, are the miners looking at this on a long-term basis, or are they just, hey, let's make sure we get fixed in the next 2 years? Because
I mean,
I don't think you guys need to, like Sam said something one day. He said, hey, when does energy and Bitcoin collide? Like I would keep out of the FERC's purview, right? That's going to create a political fight now. Now you're going to be fighting with the FERC for
what is that? What is the FERC?
Federal Energy Regulatory Commission that controls all the natural gas, electricity. I mean, they're the god, right? He's going to have to step very carefully and not get sucked into the FERC world, because they'll want to take this over. See, this is the problem with Bitcoin for the United States. Everybody's trying to figure out who owns it, and who needs to own it is the digital czar, not the CME, not the SEC, not the FTC, not IBM. It needs to be a digital expert, whole panel, whole committee to help take us into the next world. And I think actually those old groups will end up getting sucked up under the digital guy, because you don't, like, if you just have to believe we're not going to do this halfway. This is what these congressmen and governors need to understand. We're slipping into the digital world. This is now about technology taking us into another future, and everything in the past is probably going to suffer pretty good, right? As far as the tools to take us there, energy's in a very good position, but they're very culturally, they're very slow to move. They've gone through Y2K, they went through '01, they went through all the whole Amazon thing, and they're like, we've been pulled into all these businesses and none of them made any money. And their shareholders want them to stick to their knitting. To me, the way we pitch this to our local player, whether it's federal or state, is if we don't do this, whether we do it or not, every other country at the sovereign level is going to do it. Right? Because they can. This is giving them access to a market that they didn't have yesterday. And there's just no way they're not going to turn trapped energy into money. The time value of that exercise says you would spend almost any amount of money to turn 10-year, 20-year energy into dollars today. Energy they will never, for 20 years, they're not going to see a penny on. They might as well give it away. That's going to be the future of mining. The guy that literally wants to take his energy that's getting zero or negative, he's paying to have it trapped there, and putting it into Bitcoin. And if you just look at this, just get it with any economist or any smart guy in the governor's office, it's just not possible that this game theory doesn't play out this way.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. Again, I mean, that's global awakening is going to take place. We're all of us in this call right here, and I think many of the Bitcoiners and Bitcoin miners around the world, are still sort of kind of surprised how long it's taken for people at the highest ranks of government, whether that be FERC or that be other energy regulatory bodies or nation states, like how long it's really taking them to see the potential here. And I think it's obviously a mispricing of Bitcoin itself as an asset and where it's going to go. But it's also the mispricing of, the ability to monetize this wasted and stranded energy. Ultimately, I think the big problem here is that energy companies make so much money, so much guaranteed money, that Bitcoin is sort of a small sliver to them, and they're not seeing the long-term opportunity of adding Bitcoin into the mix right now in the current stage. But that is changing. I think that's changing quite rapidly, especially across the globe and in the United States as well. But you are going to see, in my opinion, a really strong convergence of Bitcoin mining and the energy sector. Those conversations are taking place as we speak. I just think that it's going to take a little bit more time in the US, but internationally, those conversations seem to be quite accelerated, especially in countries where, a small amount of revenue increase for them can make a big difference for their populace.
Yeah. Well, I think we've also, Dennis, we've sold this there. Like it needs a different marketer, a different salesman. And I wouldn't even sell it like, hey, this is good for America. I would sell it like, hey, you better do this or you're going to get fucked. Because this is very different. If Europe runs out of energy from Russia, America sells it to them. That's cool. Okay, we can deliver to them. If Russia decides to mine their own Bitcoin, we ain't making any deliveries to Russia. Okay, there's no way for us to now go sop up that demand. That demand's gone. Okay, and the weird thing is, this is what the energy players need to understand. Dude, that's made with energy that did not disrupt the energy that you're already having to compete with. This is new units of energy that literally all they have to do is make it available by the data centers. They have now logistically moved trapped energy to any place in the world they want. This is what Saylor understands. Well, you can move 1 trillion megawatts of energy from Russia to China if you want to, right? And then China gets to buy however much oil they want to buy because they're a net buyer. So China's not going to be a monster miner, but anybody it's the sovereigns. I think you have to pitch this as game theory to all these people and just go, there is no choice for us unless we're just not going to participate in the market, which would be a massive mistake.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to take some more conversations and some more time, but at the end of the day, we're on the winning path, and I think that we have the truth on our side and physics on our side. And so ultimately, I think you're going to see this global adoption tick up, especially as Bitcoin goes through another traditional bull market. I don't think we have seen that traditional bull market hit quite yet. Bitcoin's well poised for a breakout here, but as soon as it does, I think that's when you're really going to see those conversations start to pick up again as people see Bitcoin return for another big upswing.